Alright, hey everybody, it's another Cooking with Cory episode. I think I'm doing better keeping it there so you can see kind of what's going on the stove. But I just got home from work and it's almost 6:30 and I haven't prepped anything yet. So I did buy a new cast iron lid for my cast iron skillet so that I could cook in it, because cast iron is for life and it's really good and it lasts a long time if you take care of it. So yeah, so I got that. Anyway, so I'm gonna be making Hungarian Golash, because I am Hungarian and I like goulash. And a lot of that crap you get at the, if you eat it at the cafeteria or whatever, and they put like noodles, or I don't know, maybe your mom put noodles and stuff in it. That's not goulash. I got nothing better to make, so I'm throwing a bunch of stuff in a skillet and I'm calling it goulash. So this is traditional Hungarian goulash, the way that I was taught to make it and the way I like it. Anyway, so you need some butter, a cutting board, and of course everything is going all over the place, and the animals want to be out here and everything's butter. Alright, so I'll get my knife out. So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of butter, melt them in the pan. I know, probably everybody's at work, so nobody's really logged in. You guys will have to catch this live later, I guess. So melt the 2 tablespoons of butter in there. I'm going to take the onions. This onion's kind of yucky, so we're not going to use this onion. We're going to use a better onion than that. This would be good for something not goulash. Alright, the butter aside. Grab me an onion. Big old onion. Oh, somebody logged in. Alright, somebody just logged in. So it calls for 1 whole onion. So I like to use yellow onions because I think they taste good. You can use white onions or purple onions or whatever. Purple onions are better for salads, I think. I don't really cook with them. So, I guess you could cook with them if you wanted to, but I prefer not to. Oh, somebody else logged in. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm melting the butter that I'm going to be cooking everything in, because like everything I cook, it may not be the healthiest for you, but it's filling in it. Anything you cook by yourself is going to be better than the crap you made out of the box anyway, in my opinion. Okay. So I'm going to keep letting that go. And it's cast iron, so we can use the metal spatula. Yeah, look at that. Butter's melting all good in there. Now, another way you can, a variant you can make, which is very tasty, is you can put bacon. Like I saved my bacon grease. You can throw 2 tablespoons of bacon grease in there to cook with. Whatever, it's all good. As long as there's some kind of greasy stuff in there to make your onions soft. Alright. Calls for chopped onion. It says 1.5 cups, or 1 whole onion is about 1.5 cups. Not always. Depends on onions. If you buy them big, ginormous, huge, onions, then you're gonna have way more onion than you want. So you might want to half that. But yeah, it should look about like 1.5 cups. And we're gonna slice this bad boy up here. Now, when I make chicken paprikash, when I use the 3 onions for that, I cut them really thin because I want the onions to become part of the gravy. But when I make goulash, since goulash is more of a stew or a soup, I'm going to have it just a little bit more bits, because I want the onions to, I want to have chunks of onion in there. Alright. So it looks like the butter is nice and melted. I probably should have grabbed a bigger cutting board because I'm running out of room on this. Alright. Okay. Throw all that right on in there all together. Now, if your onions are really wet, juicy onions, you may want to step back a bit so you don't splatter hot blazing grease all over yourself, because that would suck. Alright, you want all that good stuff off of there. Keep all that. Alright, so you're just going to cook those till they're soft and brown. They don't have to, you don't have to kill them. You can turn it, you know, kind of medium. Alright, while that's doing that, you need 4 cups of broth to put in there for your base. I use, like I said, I live where Amish people live. I like Amish people stuff, so I use Amish people food. So I'm going to put about 4 tablespoons of this in here. Give or take, you know, it's not exact, but it's going to be a beef broth. And 4, and that looks good. These onions are starting to smell really yummy. They're getting a little soft. They're in that butter. Smells delicious. Alright. I'm going to go nuke this real quick. Be right back. I just don't really need to boil it, but just like to make that a little bit sweeter there. So, frying up the onion in there. Now, because this is going to be more of a stew goulash, I'm going to use flour on the meat. And potatoes. Open up my meat. Alright, this is like 1.5 pounds of stew meat. You can use up to 3 pounds because I got a big skillet. I could do that, but it's only me, and I don't feel like eating goulash every single day for like the next, like, really forever. So I'm not making that much. Let's see. I'm gonna get a little bit of flour in here. Like staples you should always have on hand at your house. This is a hint for those of you that I sometimes come to your house and I cook with you and you don't have certain things that I need. You should always have flour at your house, some kind of cooking oil or butter, you know, sugar, basic spices, salt and pepper, stuff like that. If you know I'm coming over, you might want to buy some paprika. And I don't care if it's crappy Kroger brand, because I'm not going to mess with you buy crappy Kroger brand. Paprika's paprika, but for me, I prefer real stuff. So I'm gonna use paprika. Alright, so all this is it's about a cup, not even a cup, about a half a cup of flour, some salt, pepper, just kind of shaking it around in there. Come over here and take the meat. Now, the one thing I did kind of prep is I put this meat in the refrigerator to defrost throughout the day. Most people don't, they like defrost it in the microwave, whatever, you know, whatever makes you happy. Defrost it that way if you want. I personally would rather throw it in the sink and let it go, but I didn't know what time I was going to get home from work today, so I didn't want it to go bad in the sink, which I would have ate it anyway because I don't really care. But, you know, everybody gets on me about eating things that I probably shouldn't eat, but whatever. The expiration date is just a suggestion. As long as it's not like a couple of months past the date, or like, you know, if you sniff it and it stinks, well then don't eat it. But if it still smells good, it's good. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat that stuff. I don't have a wife to tell me not to do that stuff anymore, so. Some of you, your wives will probably say, don't eat that. Or if you got wives that are trying to get your insurance money, they might, hey, eat this, it stinks and it's dirty. It's good for you. Whatever. Alright, the bad thing about defrosting meat in the refrigerator is it doesn't tend to unfreeze very well in the refrigerator. especially if you keep your refrigerator at like 50 degrees, like it is suggested you hold your food at. So some of these hunks of meat are still a little frozen, which really sucks. Alright, probably turn that up just a little bit. So you don't really want to crowd the pan when you're putting the meat in. You just kind of want to drop it in there and let the little happy things go. You know, you don't need to crowd it. And it's alright if like you don't knock all the flour off of a piece of meat and like you drop it in there and there's a whole ton of it or whatever. Because like I said, this one we're making more thick like a stew. If I wasn't making the stew version, I would just throw the meat in there without sticking it in the flour mix. Which you're more than welcome to do. If you can't have flour because you're like allergic or whatever, then, or you just don't want flour in there, then you could also make it that way. I'm going to speed this up a little bit by putting the lid on here. There we go. Alright. So you're just browning these on each side. Again, you don't want to crowd your pan too much, but so normally, just like with chicken paprikash, you're making chicken paprikash, you would cook the chicken like, don't crowd the pan. You cook as many as you can. Flop them in a holder off to the side somewhere, and then just continue to brown your chicken or whatever. But same with this, you can brown your beef cubes and let them kind of sit to the side, and as you brown them, make room for more. You don't have to do that though. Alright, so normally I buy meat with a little bit more fat on it because it's tastier. I think the fat is kind of what gives meat its flavor. And so like if you go get a steak and like it's really lean and they cut all the fat off of it, then it kind of takes away from the flavor, and you notice it kind of doesn't taste the same. So, but then also it depends on the cut of meat that you get too. So I guess that's a whole story. Anyway, take all these babies in here. Give it the shakings. Alright, I'm gonna plop these babies in there. Oh yeah. And again, like, because this is gonna be like a stew, don't worry about like if you scorch a couple of pieces of meat, because you're using stew meat, and unless you're like some hippy dippy dude and you're buying like shish kebab meat that's all special and freaking expensive, you just buy some crappy ass stew meat. Well, it's tough. It's like really tough because it's made to be in stew. You're supposed to simmer it for a long time. So normally, if I was making this on the weekend, I would let it stew for a long time and kind of soak up all that flavor. But since it's a weekday and I'm hungry, I'm probably not going to let it sit that long. Just saying. All right. Wash your hands a lot, especially if you have like germaphobes in your life, like, you know, Rachel and Andre are like super germaphobic people, so like I wash my hands a whole bunch of times, especially if I know that they're around when I'm cooking, because they are, I wouldn't say picky or finicky, but they like to see that you clean your hands, you know. Plus, it's just sanitary, nice thing to do, you know. Nobody, we got time for that. Get sick off of some nasty hands that you were sticking in their food. Alright, so these babies are browning up a little bit in there. I am going to put my new lid on because I can, because I have a new lid and I like it and it's nice. And I'm going to chop the potatoes while that browns up. It usually takes a few minutes for it to brown. So while that's going on, I like to leave the skins on the potatoes. You don't have to, not necessary. The reason I leave it on is because that's where the vitamins and stuff are in the potato. So That's what I do. I leave it on there. But you don't have to. If you don't like potato skins in your food, you can totally cut them off and do without them. Alright, so they're supposed to be little cubes. Little is relative to what you consider little. I think little 1/4-inch cubes is little enough, but you know, you might like yours in big old hunky chunky cubes, so you can make your cubes however you like. But one thing is, potatoes take a long time to cook, so if they're really hunky chunky, like let's see, this is about the size I use right here. I don't know if you can get a, like that's about what you want. Anything more than that, too much, too big. But again, that's my opinion. You can cook and do whatever you want with yours, however you like it to be. Alright. And I'm looking for something. Oh, I dropped some stuff on the floor. That's gross. Because we want to add the potatoes all at the same time. That's my hand off because I picked something up off the floor. It's just an onion. I didn't actually physically touch the floor, so there's no cooties on my hands right now. All right. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. There's some really dense tubers here, man. Holy cow. Normally don't have that much trouble cutting a potato, but these are some pretty stout potatoes. And potatoes last a long time if you leave them, you know, you can leave them out. Don't store them in the bag. Like a lot of people leave them in the bag. And then they're like, oh man, because like one bad potato, like one bad apple spoils the bunch. Well, if you have like one bad potato with that little chunky white spot on it that leaks all that slimy juice all over the place, and then you end up having your potatoes get yucky, slimy, it's gross. And it'll take down all the other potatoes. So since these potatoes are already clean, I'm going to put them on the edge of my potato bowl so I can use them another time. See how this is doing. See how hot is that? Yeah, it's not that hot. Normal people might think that's hot, so, you know, don't go picking things up without a hot pad. And I can tell you this smells phenomenally delicious. But you can't smell it, so I guess that sucks. I wonder who's watching. I got 2 people watching. I guess I'll never know unless they text me later. One of them might be Chaps, because I was chatting with Chaps earlier, so it could be Chad. So if it is, hey Chad. Again, if you're getting like it's sticking a little bit, see how it's kind of sticking a little bit? Yes, it's very hot, I know. Anyway, I have calluses. That didn't bother me. So if it's sticking a little bit because of the flour and all your juicy bits and you didn't quite have enough grease in there or whatever, it's not the end of the world because it's a stew. So you're gonna make it up when you put the liquid in. And when you pour the liquid in, all those crunchy bits are gonna pop off the bottom. Now, if your cast iron is properly seasoned, stuff's not really gonna stick to it anyway. It'll make a crust on it, but you know, if you kind of hit it with a little bit of the spatula action, it'll flip it right up. The only exception to that is, for some ungodly reason, eggs love to stick to cold cast iron, or if it's not like the proper temperature when you do it, or if it's not greased enough, and then you have over hard eggs every time, or scrambled, because that's what's going to happen. That's just an FYI. It has nothing to do with this recipe, so you can brain dump that if you want. Alright, so your beef and your onions are all going happy in here. They're getting brown. Probably turn this up a little bit because they're not browning enough. Put the butter back. Don't need more salt, pepper. Dog is going crazy. Really need to mow my grass before it rains. So the good thing about this is once I get all the crap in the pot, I can just leave it. So it's taking a minute to brown here. Probably because I crowded the pan like I told you not to do. So because I'm in a hurry, I kind of crowded the pan. Oh, and you got these good crunchy bits in here. That all that's gonna do is later when you turn this into the stew part is gonna make the stew nice and thick. Because all that is flour, and it's getting in there, and caramelized onions, which is also very good. All right, so you take that. God, my dog's going crazy. Anyway, 4 cups of beef broth. You can just dump it right on in there with everything else. Wham! Oh, big globs of beef broth. Look at that. That's what happens when you don't stir it well enough. Whatever. It's all good. Like I said, it's gonna be cooking and simmering for a while, so it's gonna have plenty of time to spread its love around. Slobbering, drooling all over because it smells so tasty. It's like making me drool. Yeah, I love this stuff. It tastes extremely yummy. So anyway, this is the part where like I put the liquids in so it cooled the pan a little bit. So I'm going to just kind of scrape around in there. You can't really see the bottom of the pan because everything in here is dark and juicy. So trust me, I'm scraping the juice off of the bottom. And but I'm also spreading around some of the love from the beef broth, the beef paste that I made as part of the beef broth. It didn't get mixed in everything. That's okay, because we don't care. It's good. All right. Move, dog. All right. So this uses, get the damn thing open, 1/2 cup of paprika. Now, since paprika stains, normally I would just dump stuff in my hands to like see how much I have, but I really don't feel like doing that. Oh wait a minute, 1/2 cup. Wrong recipe. 1/2 cup. Nope, wrong answer. Don't do that. Hopefully you didn't just dump that in there because you can't take it back. I almost did you wrong. Sorry. This one is only 1/8 cup of paprika. Chicken paprikash is 1/4 cup. And I usually make a double recipe. That's why I was thinking 1/2 cup. Alright, so there's your 1/8 cup of paprika in there. Now dependent, some people like spicy paprika, some people like not spicy paprika. If you're making it for somebody who does not like spicy stuff, I would not suggest putting that much paprika in there if you're using a hot spicy paprika because that will kill them. This is sweet paprika though, so it's not that bad. And then the next ingredient is marjoram. About a tablespoon of marjoram. That looks like about a tablespoon. So just dump that in there. Okay. Minced garlic. See, normally I would have garlic cloves and I have a garlic mincer and I would just smush it through there and I'd make some nice fresh stuff. But since everything I try to make on here, I try to make very quickly so that you can see like you can make a good meal in a few minutes after work or whatever. I suggest you go get some minced garlic. And there's 2 tablespoons of minced garlic in here. You can get the juice all in there. It's all good. Whatever. I like it. It's all good. You want the juice. You want the bits. It's all in there. Put this in there. All right. I'm gonna let that. Okay, so I'm bringing this to a boil. So I turned the heat way up because there's so much liquid in there, so much volume and meat and the other stuff right now, it's going to take it a minute to get up to temperature. But so you want to bring it to a boil, and then you take your taters, you put your taters right in there on top of everything else. And remember that paprika stains anything it touches, so you want to try not to like dump from 5 miles up here and just splatter paprika all over your stuff, because it will get on your clothes and that's why I'm wearing black, in your stove, and it'll make a stain. And you'll have to clean it up. Alright, so we're going to simmer this. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to let it reach boiling temperature, which it's boiling now, bubbling all over. It's going crazy. It's good. We love it. It's nice. Because I put so much salt in the flour mix, I'm not going to put any salt in this, but like you can. You don't have to. And once it comes to a boil, you turn it down to a simmer, and you let it simmer for a minimum of 30 minutes. It's probably, if you're using really cheap beef like I'm using, it's going to take a lot longer for it to get tender, so I would not suggest just doing it 30 minutes. Everything will be cooked and you can eat it. The potatoes might still be a little undercooked in that short of a time, so, excuse me, I would not do that. I would let it cook for like 45 minutes at least. So I'm going to cover this up with my new happy lid that I got while I was in Ohio. And I'm going to keep this baby on low, very low. So while it's closed up, it's going to actually keep the heat in. So you're not going to lose as much heat, and you're also not going to lose as much liquid, because remember, it's a stew. We want it to be soupy and goopy like that. So when you put the lid on, it's going to keep recirculating that heat. So you can keep it like really, 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 really low, and it'll keep simmering for a long time, and it's just going to keep putting the juices back in there. But anyway, so that's Hungarian goulash. I know like the prep time is probably a little bit longer than most of my recipes, and then you have to let it cook for, like I said, 30 minutes minimum. You want to shoot for 45. If you can like start making this earlier and like let it simmer for an hour, hour and a half, that's even better, because that gives all those ingredients more time to soak in. Another good thing about Hungarian goulash, the actual goulash, is you can eat it like as leftovers the next day, and it'll taste even better because all those spices are gonna get into the potatoes and everything. The one thing I did forget is tomatoes. I have some actual tomatoes. Usually I will use like a can of stewed tomatoes in there, something like that for the maters. So you can use stewed tomatoes, but because I have fresh tomatoes, I'll slice those up. Because they tend to fall apart easier than the potatoes do, I'm not going to put that in until later on, towards the end, like after it's been cooking for about 30 minutes. Then I'll put that in. But anyway, I'm almost over my time limit. 30 minutes is way too long to be making a video, so peace out, everybody. Hope you enjoy your cooking.